Oh, just refresh it once. Refresh it once.
Yeah, even I close it and open again also. Then getting same issue.
Just hit the enter button. Just hit the enter button there. And
Anywhere, no, sir?
yeah, anywhere in the box, option box. So it's just allowing you to edit only, but it's not allowing you to drop. Okay. Fine, fine. I'll give you the edit permissions, guys. Don't edit anything and don't delete
Okay.
anything. Okay. I'll give you the edit permissions. Commentator can select the options, but not sure why it's not working. Why? Because before giving the permissions, I just tested with my account. It's working fine for me. Not sure what happened. For others, it's not working. Okay, no problem. I'll give you the editor access. Okay, you can able to see all the options. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Thank you, guys. Right. Okay. Let's continue. You can stop sharing, Manju. Thank you. Actually, commentator, right? Open spreadsheet. This is how it looks like. When I open, I'm able to see. Okay, I only created, right? Okay, that's what. Okay, fine. Just create this one. Okay. Fine, I'll check that. No issues. Right? Let's continue, guys. In the last class, we discussed about the table creation, right? How to create the table, what is the table, and how to insert the records, okay, in the table, how to filter the data using where class, okay, how to filter the data using where class, and we also discussed about the files architecture, physical hierarchy, logical hierarchy. We also discussed about the phase, extent, files, file groups, different types of files. Okay. So all these things we just discussed in the last class. So how many files will be created, guys, when you create any database? How many files will be
Two
created?
files.
Two files, sir.
What are those two files?
Log file, data
Data
file.
file and
PDF files and MDF files.
MDF file
MDF.
and LDF file. Okay, data file and log file. How many primary data files will be created when you create any database?
Just one.
two.
One.
What
Just
is
one.
the extension of the primary data file?
MDF.
MDF.
How many
What
secondary
MDF?
data files will be created when you create any database?
Sorry?
How many secondary
32,000.
files will be created when you create any database? How many secondary
One.
files will be created when you create
One.
a database?
Sorry, Shanmugh, there's a bit of a disturbance somewhere when you're asking that question. So
How
it's
many
just cracking.
secondary data files will be created when you create any database?
By default, it is one, which is an NDF file, NDF.
Secondary data file, I'm asking how many?
None, sir, none.
Yes, none. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You don't get
Yes,
any
sir.
secondary file. Only primary data file you will get it, and one log file you will get it. Okay. So if you want, you can add extra data files. The extra data files you can call it as a secondary data files. But by default, you will get one primary data file and one log file. You don't get any secondary data files when you create the database. When you are adding the new data file, then only the new data files will be like a secondary data files. What is the default file group in the database? What is the name of the default file group? Anyone remember that? What is the name of the default file group? Sorry,
Primary.
primary. Yes, primary. Primary.
MDF.
No, see, primary is different, MDF is different. I'm asking the default file group name. The default file group name. Okay, so primary is the default file group
Primary.
name, and in that primary file group, primary data file will be created. Okay. In the primary file group, a primary data file will be created, which is MDF. Okay, right. So can anyone tell me the physical hierarchy of the database? How the things will be organized physically, layer by layer?
Machine
Uh,
and instance,
okay.
Database,
database,
Database.
data
Okay.
file,
file groups,
Okay.
pages.
data files,
Okay. Direct
extend
pages,
and pages.
Extends
File
pages.
group
Extend,
after
pages and
then
table.
extend, then after then pages.
Right. Okay. So SQL Server, inside SQL Server databases, inside databases file groups and log file, inside file groups data file, inside data files extends, inside the extends you can see the pages. Page is the basic storage unit of a SQL Server. What is the size of the page, guys? 8
8 KB.
8 KB.
Can we
8 KB.
modify the page size?
No, sir.
Modify? No, cannot modify the page size. Okay, what is the size of the extent?
64
60
KB.
Okay.
How many types of extents are there?
Two
Uh,
types.
multi-
Uniform and
Uniform and mixed.
Uniform and mixed extent. What is the meaning of uniform extent? What is an uniform
A
extent?
single object.
Single
All
object.
the objects.
Single
It
object.
belong to the same object.
All the 8 pages belongs to a single object, that is called, okay, a uniform extent. What about mixed extent, guys?
Multiple
All the
objects.
8 pages
It's
are belong to different
different object.
objects.
All the 8 pages belongs to a different objects. Okay, all the 8 pages belongs to a different objects, that is called mixed extent. So when you create any table for the first time, uh, what SQL server will allocate, guys? From which extent it will allocate a page?
Mixed extent.
Mixed
Mixed extent.
Mixed extent. It will allocate a page from the mixed extent. And if the table is growing,
belongs to.
the subsequent allocations will be uniform extent. Okay, the subsequent allocations will be uniform extent, guys. Okay, right? And we also discussed about the table. What is table? How to create the table? How to create a database? Okay, what is the command to create the database?
Create
create
database.
database
Create
name.
database name.
Create database. Database name will help you to create the database. One minute, guys. Right, okay. So now let's quickly discuss about the log file usage, guys. So what is the log file? What is the use of the log file? Okay. So let's quickly discuss about the log file. Okay, right. So now this is your SQL server. Okay, this is your Windows machine. Okay. Imagine this is your Windows machine. Right. And inside the Windows machine, we have the SQL server, right? This is your SQL server, guys. This is your SQL server. 1 minute, just 1 minute.
Shanmugh, your screen is hung. At least for me, I'm not sure if
No,
others
no,
are
no,
able to see
no,
the
no,
screen.
no. It was not.
Okay, okay.
It was not fine. Okay, right. Right now you can see, right, the white screen diagram. The same, right? You're talking about the same, I guess, drive. Batch 54
Yes,
drive.
yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Okay, done. Right, okay. So let's add a database. In the SQL Server, we have a database, right? So imagine this is a database. Okay, so this is your database. And let's add an application, which is a gear symbol. Okay, so imagine this is my application, right? This is my application, and SQL Server application is connected to the SQL Server database. Okay, application is connected to the SQL Server database. So what is the application name? Tell me any application name, guys. Any application name.
eBay, Amazon.
Any other new application? Regularly we're using
Anthem.
Zomato.
WhatsApp.
Zomato. Let's go to Zomato. Okay. Imagine Zomato.com is one application. Control V. Right. So now this is the data file, right? This is the data file. Now, listen carefully. Data file means, database means collection of two files, right? Minimum two files. You can add n number of, I mean to say, you can add 32,767 files, but it's a collection of minimum two files initially. Later you can add it. So one is data file, second one is log file. Okay. So if you want, you can save both the files in the same drive. Listen carefully. If you want, you can save data file and log file in the same drive itself. Okay. Let me add one thing here. Table. Okay. Nodes. 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 Okay. Nodes. Okay. Rough nodes. Nodes. Okay. Fine. This is fine. More file will be there, guys. Checking that one. Directory.
Type on book, sir.
Book, there is a separate page. It's a kind of same log file page. That's what I'm just looking. I'm just looking into it. That is good actually. We'll keep it here. Keep it here. It's actually good. Let me open one thing. Okay. Draw IO. Draw IO. This is batch 50, right? Batch 50. Just the background. Just a minute, just a minute. Just looking for the diagram. Okay, this is the one. Got it. This one. If you go
As
to
far
my
as that biryani is concerned, that Meghna biryani is not good. The one right opposite to Meghna is so much.
You don't like Meghna biryani?
No, definitely not. I forgot the name of the one that is opposite to Meghna, but that is really nice.
Bangalore,
In Bangalore, yeah.
Krutinga, na?
No, it is on MG Road,
MG Road. Okay.
and yeah, these two shops are opposite to each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. So now if you see here, guys. So when you create any database, imagine this is the, for example, imagine this is the orders database. Orders. Okay. This is the orders database for Meghna Zomato application, and the data is loading from the application. This is the app. You are using an app, right? So when you open the Zomato, you can see a lot of items, right? When you place any order, at the end of the day, the order will goes to this orders database, guys. Right? Database means, right? Collection of data file and log file. Collection of data file and log file. So this is your data file, okay, and this is your log file, guys. So you can keep both the files in one drive, okay. You can keep both the files in the same drive if you want. You can keep both the files in the same drive, or else you can keep the files in different drives also. In the organization, generally for performance, okay, what we will do, we'll create two drives, log file, log drive, and data drive. All the database data files will be stored in the data drive. All the database log files will be stored in the log drive, guys. Is it clear up to here? Is it clear, everyone? Guys, there are two files will be created when you create any database. This is clear, right, everyone? Correct?
Yeah.
So those
Yeah.
two files, you can keep it in the single drive. Like yesterday, we just created those two files in the C drive only. So those two files can be in the single drive, in the same drive, or you can separate data files. You can keep it in the data drive. Log files, you can keep it in the log drive. Okay. Imagine for data files, I'll use D drive, drive letter D. Okay. This is the D drive. And for log files, I'll use drive letter L. This is L drive. Okay. So if you want, you can keep it in the same drive, or else if you want, you can keep it in the separate drives. Right. Now you are placing an order. For example, you are placing an order 1, and you are placing something, okay, gulab jam, right? Gulab jamun, right? And customer name is Suresh, okay, Suresh. And from which restaurant? From which restaurant? From any restaurant, like from Kanti Sweets, okay, Kanti Sweets. So the cost is around 500, okay, and the address is Matali. Matali. Okay. So now this is the, or else let me add this. You don't know Matali, right? So I'm going to add this as a Bangalore. Okay. Bangalore. Right. So now when you place the order from the application, right? Listen carefully. So first this record will goes to, from this application, it will goes to database. Database means what? Two files. To which file it will go? To which
To
file
the data.
first? To which
Data
file
file.
first? No, it
Data
will go to
file.
log file first. Then what is the use of the log file if it is going to data file directly? I told you, right? There are two types of files. One is log file, second one is data file. So every transaction, first it will goes to log file immediately. First, it will goes to log file. Log file is the primary location for any transaction. This is called transaction, guys. For example, how you are going to insert this data? How you are going to insert this data? You'll write an insert statement, right? Insert into, okay? Yeah, orders,
Table name.
values, right? Then you will add all these values, right? Then you are going to add all these values, correct? Control X. Listen carefully, guys. There is a difference between transaction and the data. Okay. Why I'm not getting, yeah. Control V. Okay. Close it. Right. Open it. Right. This is called transaction, guys. The insert statement yesterday, like we inserted a lot of records using insert statement. So if you see here, this is called a transaction. So inside this, you can see some bold letters, right? This is called data. In the brackets, whatever you can see, that is called data. And the whole thing, you can call it as a transaction. Is it clear now? Guys, is it clear?
Yes.
Difference between a data and
Yes.
transaction, is it clear? Right. So now this will goes to when you just place any order, it will generate a command like this. Guys, are you going to write any command to place the order? No, right? When you click on the item, when you click on add, that mechanism will generate a transaction like this, right? And then there is a concept called WAL. What is that, guys? WAL. What is that? Val concept. What is the val concept, guys? Write ahead logging. What is that? Log file. Okay. Log file follows WAL concept. What is that WAL? Write ahead logging. Write ahead logging. As per this, what is this write ahead logging? Writing everything to the log file is called write ahead logging. Writing everything to the log file is called WAL, guys. Writing everything to the log file is called WAL, write ahead logging. So now if you see here, go to this, okay? When you place any order in the back end, the application mechanism will generate a query like this, and this query or transaction, it will go to the database, and it don't go to data file first, it will go to log file.
Okay.
Okay, clear, guys? Clear? Right. So this is called, what is this, guys? What is this? This is
WAL.
transaction. Okay,
Transaction.
transaction. So there are two types of transactions, guys. There are two types of transactions. What are those two types? Two types of transactions. Committed and uncommitted transactions. Okay, uncommitted transactions. Committed transactions and uncommitted transactions. Commit means what? Guys, I'm writing something on the notepad, right? I'll give you an example, right? I'm writing something to this notepad. So now, say for example, I just copied something, okay, and I just pasted here, right? Now, if I save this, where it will save, guys? If I save this,
RAM,
ROM,
Boom.
okay?
ROM,
Now,
ROM.
as of now, it's just an untitled document. I didn't save this document. If I save this permanently, it will be saved into the drive, ROM. Until then,
ROM.
where it will save? Until then, where it will save?
RAM.
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 Until
RAM.
then, temporarily, it will save in the RAM. That is the use of the RAM and ROM. RAM will help you to store the things temporarily. ROM will help you to save the things permanently. So if I save that permanently, it will be written to the drive. So whenever you want, again, you can go and you can open, you can see it. Log file also same, guys. Imagine throughout the country, please be muted, Venkat. Yeah, throughout the country, if 1 million people are using Zomato at a time, or maybe they are placing 1 lakh orders at a time, right? So can you write the whole 1 lakh records directly to the data file? Is it possible at a time? At a time, can I write 1 lakh records directly to the data file? For example, you have a homework, right? You have to write 100 pages. Can you write 100 pages at a time or 1000 pages at a time? No.
Impossible.
You cannot write.
No.
So what you will do? Page by page, page by page, line by
One
line,
by
line
one.
by line, you will write it. So the hard disk pointer will also write the same manner. It will also write line by line, record by record, record by record. So all 1 million records it cannot write to the data file at a time. Temporarily it will store in the log file. The transactions temporarily it will store in the log file, and slowly it will move the data to the data file. See here, this is a transaction. Okay, but while moving the data, only this part will be moved to the data file. Is it clear, guys? This is called your data. Okay, so in the log file, transactions will be stored, whereas in the data file, data will be stored. Is it clear, guys? So to write the data to the data file, temporarily the transaction will be stored in one location called log file. Is it clear, guys? Log file is
Yeah.
a temporary location. Is it clear? Log file is a temporary location until the data is going to be written to the data file. If it's written to the data file, it's permanently saved, guys. Like the notepad example. If you don't save it, it will store in the RAM. If you save it, it will store in the disk, right? If it's stored in the disk, permanently it was saved. So in the same way, log file is like a RAM. Until this data is written to the data file, temporarily it will store here, guys. Is it clear? Is this point clear, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Now,
yes, yeah.
I told you, right, there are two types of transactions, committed and uncommitted transaction. Okay, what is committed transaction? If you write the data to the data file, that is called committed transaction. So that means control S, saving. If you are saving, if you are moving this data to this data file from log file to the data file, that is called committed. So if any transaction is committed, what log file will do, you know? What log file will do? It will truncate the transaction from the log file. Is it clear? Means until the data, for example, once the class is completed, what I'll do? Either I'll save this or I'll cancel this. Correct? So if I save this, it will be written to the data file directly, and then I'll close this. If I cancel this also, then I'll close this. So what will happen? So once this data is permanently moved to the data file, I don't want the transaction, the log file. So what sequencer will do? It will truncate. Truncate means delete. Okay, it will delete the transaction. So now log file is empty again. Is it clear? But data file is not empty, guys. Data file, the data will keep on adding. For example, now in this notepad, if I save something, so if I don't save it, I can cancel it. But if I save it, what I have to do? Again, I have to go to the physical location. Again, I have to do modifications. Correct, guys? If I close this, if I close this, if I save this document, I have to go to physical location and I have to modify this document. Or else if I don't save this, or else if I open this document, I can modify the document now itself. In the same way, if the transaction is committed, what is the meaning of commit, guys? Writing data to the data file is called
Data file.
commit. Okay, writing data to the data file is called commit. So once this transaction is permanently moved to the data file, what is the use of this transaction? 2 times you are maintaining the transaction. What is the use? So that's why this will be truncated from the log file. What will happen, guys? This will be truncated from the log file.
Truncated.
Like
Mhm.
this, millions of transactions, continuously it will be written to the data file. So until the data is going to be written to the data file, temporarily it will store in the log file. Once it was committed to the data file directly, the transactions will be removed from the log file or truncated from the log file. Technical word called truncate. Truncate is also called as one kind of delete only. So in this way, log file will be reusable. That's why we will manage 2 drives, guys. Why? Because log file will store lot of things. Well, log file will store, you can see only transaction, but apart from this transaction, it will store the transaction ID, LSN number, object ID, to which table it has to go, object ID, page details, time, location, right? All these details it will store. So for one transaction, it will store around 108 values, guys. 108 attributes it will store. Attributes in the sense I told you, right? The transaction ID, LSN number, on which database, at what time it came, all these things it will manage in the log file, guys. So once it's committed, all 108 attributes will be truncated from the log file. Why? Because it's permanently moved, right? So if I saved this document, I can close this. Why? Because it's permanently saved in one drive. So in the same way as it's truncated to the data file, so the all the for one transaction it will store 108 attributes, right? All the 108 attributes will be truncated. So that free space will be reused again for the next transactions, upcoming transactions. Is it clear, guys? Log file, it won't store anything permanently, guys. That's why log file will call it as a, we'll call log file.
Uncommitted transactions.
No, no.
Okay.
What is the another name of log file, guys? We'll call the log file as a reusable file. Reusable file, right? Reusable file in the sense, if you go to this, whatever transactions, 1 million transactions are there, 1 million transactions, it cannot write to the data file in a fraction of milliseconds or fraction of in a flash. So temporarily it will store here, right? And it slowly, if the transaction is committed, slowly only this part, the data part will be moved to the data file. Okay, again, in the data file, it don't store all 108 attributes, guys. Only in the log file, it will store 108 attributes. If this transaction is committed, what will do, guys? The SQL server will truncate this transaction, and all the objects of this transaction, like LSN number, like whatever it is, all the attributes of this transaction. So that's why 108 attributes, okay, data will be deleted when once this is committed, guys. Until commit is completed, the transaction will be there in the log file only. Very simple example. Now I'm taking the classes. Some people will have a habit of running notes, right? You will write something, right? As just for your understanding, you will write running notes, right? Once the class is completed, what you will do, guys? What you will do? Again, point by point, you will copy the same thing into your main notes, right? So log file is called a running notes kind of thing. Until the data is saved to the data file permanently, it will store in the log file temporarily. Once the transaction is committed, commit means what? Writing the data to the data file. Once it's committed, automatically the same transaction will be deleted from the log file. So in this way, SQL Server will reuse the log file, guys.
Mm.
Is it clear, everyone?
Yes,
Shanmugh, I have a doubt.
Yes.
one question.
Yes, yes.
Sorry.
One by
One question around the information that gets stored in the log file.
Mhm.
And obviously, when the transaction comes in, the transaction comes to log file, and then from log file, it traverses to data file. The moment it is written in the data file, it becomes a committed transaction.
Correct.
Now, the information about the transaction as to the time when the transaction happened, the date as to when the transaction happened, and all those data about the data, like, the metadata about the transaction itself.
Correct.
Which one gets recorded? The moment it hits the data file gets recorded, the moment it hits the log file that gets recorded, or the moment the transaction is done that gets recorded? What time gets recorded?
The moment it hits
So
that
for
database, which is log file, it gets recorded.
the time that hits the database, that is at the log file that gets recorded.
Correct.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Why? Because
Shanmugh, like,
in between, I'll tell you. So Shanmukh, I just added only this transaction, right? So who will add all these 108 attributes? Who will add all these 108 attributes? There is a mechanism called, or else
Stored position.
internally there is a system called database engine. So that database engine will take care of all these things. Okay, in the SQL server, database engine will do all these things, right? So database engine will add all the 108 attributes like the time, timestamp, LSN number, right? And the object ID, page details, everything will be provided by your database engine to the transaction, guys. So the moment it hits the log file, it will record. The database engine will add all these 108 attributes to that particular transaction, guys.
Shanmukh, like once the committed transaction is saved into the data file, if we are going to delete or modify any type of operation on the data, is there any connection with the log file? The log
No,
file is
no.
only for writing purpose only?
Only for writing purpose. You see, once the data is saved permanently, how to delete it? You have to use delete query or modify
Yes,
it,
yes.
alter query. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Why? Because this is already moved. It's committed, right? Once it's committed, see, either you can see the transaction here or here. If it's
Okay. For example, accidentally I deleted a file, and then how? So are you going to use log file to trace back
we are
that
not,
deleted
see,
file?
accidentally, if you delete the file, nothing. You can't do anything. Why? Because accidentally you deleted this record, gulab jamun. Suresh is not going to get the gulab jamun. Accidentally, if you delete any record, okay, you don't get anything. Why? Why? Because you deleted from the main place, so you don't get from the log file again. No, you cannot recover. Why? Because when it will goes to data file, once it's committed, if it's committed means can you see in the log file again? No.
No,
Only right,
yeah.
either it will place here or it will be here until the transaction is
Okay.
going to be committed. Okay, it will be here. Once it's committed, it will be moved to here. So once it's moved to data file, the same transaction will be deleted here. So in such scenario, how to recover the data? Using database backups.
Okay. I mean, like as a DBA, like when someone is accidentally delete a file, how is they
Yes,
gonna track it? You know,
that's
like that is my.
yeah, I got your point. I got your point. So in such scenario, you have to ask the user the date and time, and
Okay.
continuously will enable the backups on the database, right? Using that
Okay.
backups, you can able to recover the data if there is a good backup. If there is no good backup, gone. I mean to say, it's
Okay.
gone. It's gone. You cannot recover the data.
Okay. So it is like completely drop
Yes,
thing, right?
completely drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got
If,
it. Okay.
if you
Thank
have
you.
any lower environment where the same replica of data is replicating or any high availability kind of thing, in such scenarios, you can get a
Oh,
rejection. Otherwise, it's gone.
okay.
Shanmukh, I have a question.
Yes, please.
In transaction, the payment will be done successfully, but transaction will be failed. In this situation, data will be where it's stored.
Log file. It will be stored in the log file.
Transaction will be payment success. Transaction will be failed.
Even though, see, payment failed, success, everything will be stored in the log file only, but that log record will goes to data file later once it's committed. So even though it's failed or successful, the data will be stored in the log file only. It's not like success means it will go to data file, failed means it will go to log file. No, success, it don't know what is success and failure. The machine will know what is success and failure. No, right? It will treat that action as a record. That record will be stored in the log file until it is going to be committed. So even though the transaction is successful or failed, it will store. Why? Because later you should be able to see, right, whether it is successful or failed. If you open PhonePe, you can see the failed transactions also. From where you are able to see the failed transaction? It will record successful transaction. It will record failed transaction. It will commit the data whether the transaction is successful or failed. Why? Because for future reference, you should be able to see the transaction.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, data will be good or bad. It will be stored in log file.
Yes.
Then move to the database.
You know
right?
that it is good or bad, but system don't know, right? It's good or bad. It will treat that as an action. Every action will be recorded and that action will be committed to the data file. Whether it's a good action, bad action, anything. There is no such kind of good or bad. That is an action. So every action will be recorded and will be committed.
Yeah. Okay.
Shanmukh,
Yes.
when
log file is
transaction is
full.
present in log file, it is called uncommitted, right?
Correct.
Committing is nothing but writing, right?
Commit means saving the data permanently.
Oh.
So where it will save the in these two files, what is the permanent location?
Data.
Data file is
Data
the
file,
fundamental
data.
thing. So writing data to the data file is called commit. Writing data to the log file is called val, write ahead logging.
Okay.
Shanmugh garu,
Yes.
after commit the transaction, then also if the log file data will be stored in my organization. So the log file is full.
That's what Anil, one thing that you have to do here, you have to internally, like lot of other mechanisms will work. But as of now, this is how it will work. I'll tell you why in your scenario, why it's happening. If any active transactions are running, okay, the log file, it won't truncate. So if you are inserting, say for example, I'll tell you, okay, this is the transaction, right? Let me copy this transaction and let me open the notepad. Okay, so how it knows whether it's committed or uncommitted, I'll tell you. Okay, 1 minute. Control C, Control Z. Why I'm getting like this? Okay, no issues. Let me. Okay, so what is the command? Insert into orders values. Okay, and 1 comma gulab jamun. Okay, comma Suresh, comma what is that? Kanti Sweets 500 Bangalore. Kanti Sweets 500 Bangalore. Right? This is one transaction, right? This is one transaction.
Yes.
Now, how SQL Server understand whether this is a committed transaction or uncommitted transaction? Okay, now see here. If you start the transaction with the begin tran, and if at the end of the transaction, if you add a commit, then this is called a committed transaction. Okay. If you start any transaction with a begin tran, and at the end of the transaction, if you add commit, means you are saying to the SQL Server, hey, this is a committed transaction. You can save this permanently. Right? Now, if you don't give these two also, SQL Server will commit the transaction. Why? By default, SQL Server will provide these two parameters. So this is also a committed transaction. This is also a committed transaction, guys. Okay. Right. Begin tran, at the end commit. Okay. So this is also a committed transaction, and this is also a committed transaction. Why? If you don't give begin tran and commit, SQL Server will understand, okay, he is asking me to give. So SQL Server will give begin tran and commit. But what is uncommitted transaction? You just started the transaction with the begin tran, okay, and you gave the transaction. But if you started giving it, if you don't give both, SQL Server will give both. That is a committed transaction. If you give both, that is also a committed transaction. But you just started with the begin tran, but you didn't give commit. In such scenario, SQL Server will understand this is an uncommitted transaction. This will be stored in the log file only. Until you commit this manually, this will be stored in the log file only. So now in this scenario, in your case, imagine like this 1 million transactions are there, like this 1 million transactions are there, or 100 transactions are there. You didn't give commit, right? You just started, but you didn't give commit. So this is called active transaction. This is called active transaction. Active transaction is not committed, so it will store in the log file only. What I said, what we discussed in the class last time. So if it is committed, then only it will be moved. But in your scenario, it is not committing. Why? Because you are giving uncommitted transactions. That is one reason. Lot of reasons. This will be discussed at the end of the class. I mean to say the whole course. Daily activities, what and all things we'll do daily, this will be discussed. So as of now, this is an uncommitted transaction. This is just an active transaction. Okay. So what you can do, Anil, go to our channel. Okay. So
Okay. We are using one application. In that there is no commit and all.
forget about
So
all those things. Forget about all those things. Okay. Forget
okay.
about all those things. You don't give any commit, uncommit and all. You should know this. Go to our channel, just in the search button, shrink log file. if you want answer immediately. Otherwise, you will get it at the end of the sessions. Shrink log file, watch this video, 36 minutes video, okay? What might be the reasons why the log file is not shrinking, what is meant by shrink and all, everything you will get it in this video, okay? So here you don't give any commit and all. From the application side, it will get it, okay? As a why? Because millions of transactions will run every time. So which DBA will give commit and all? We don't give anything. Developers will give commit, uncommit, everything. They will start with the begin tran and all. Even though that is coming from the application, in the application they mentioned like an uncommitted transaction. That's how they mention, okay? So if any uncommitted transactions are there, it don't release the space until you commit the transactions. Clear? So there are a lot of reasons. Sometimes you have to take the log backup. Sometimes you have to check the active transactions. Based on that, you have to take action. Just check the video. At this time, it's too early to discuss all these things. Just check the video, string sequencer log files on production databases. You will get an idea. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Guys, is it clear?
Sir,
Yes, please.
sir, this is also work like this, like WhatsApp chat is normally log files, and we click that backup option. So that is data file where
Uh,
we save.
Not exactly. Backup will create a copy in your email, okay? So in case if you are changing the mobile, if you are changing the device, you can able to recover. So that is an example for backup, that you cannot say, okay, that's a committed or uncommitted, okay? That's an example for backup. Yeah, very simple, guys, very simple. See, I'll again repeat the things. So whenever you insert or whenever you place any order, whenever users are using the applications, okay, whatever it is, whether they are placing ad or whether they are watching videos, whatever they are, as per the user's requirement, the mechanism will generate a transaction. That transaction, it will goes to the database in the sense two files. So to which file it will go first? As per val concept, all the transactions first it will goes to log file only. So here in between, database engine will allocate some numbers to this transaction, like date, time, on which database, okay, right? What is the page ID, to which page ID it is going to commit. All these details will be added by your database engine, and then it will store all 108 attributes here. If this transaction, for every transaction, there are two states. One is committed state, uncommitted state. If this is committed, only the data that is there in the brackets will be moved to the data file. Okay, only the data that is there in the brackets will be moved to the data file. The moving the data to the data file is called commit. So once it's saved permanently, data file means permanent location, then the same transaction will be truncated from this area, from this log file. So it will create room for the upcoming transaction. So that's why log file will call it as a reusable file. So why we will maintain separate drive for log file? What is the reason? Why? Because for every transaction, it will store 108 values. Correct? So the log file growth will be drastic, guys. If you are inserting 1 lakh transactions, 1 lakh into 108, how much? 1 lakh into 10, how much? 10 lakhs. 1 crore, 10 million values will generate. So log file growth will be very huge, guys. So that's why if you keep log file and the data file in the same drive, log files will full very quickly. So data files, they don't get any free space to expand. So that's why you'll keep on getting space issues. So application will be down. So that's why we don't keep both the files in one drive. We'll keep both the files in different drives, data files, data drive, log files, log drive. So that this log drive, even if this log drive is full, okay, we can troubleshoot it quickly by shrinking the log files. But if the data drive is full, it will take a lot of time to fix the issue, to shrink the files and all, to take the action and all. So that's why for better practice in the organization, we'll keep data files in the data drive, we'll keep log files in the log drive. Later, if the transactions are committed, the log file drives will keep on reusable. The log file space will be reusable for the upcoming transactions, guys. That is the use of the log file. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, fine. So now let's go to the SQL Server. So in the last class, we discussed about the database creation and adding the files, creating the what I can say, creating the tables, inserting the data, using the where class. All these things we discussed in the last class, guys. So are we good till now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll do one thing.
Yes.
Yes, please. Okay, we'll do one thing. Let's take a break. Come back after 15 minutes. We'll discuss about the system databases. Okay, master model, MSDB, TempDB. What are the uses of those system databases? Will be discussed, guys. Okay, I'll be back after 15 minutes, guys. Yeah, Prasad. Implicit and explicit transactions. Yes.